If you feel like you're capable of more, but you don't have a clear path to get there, you're in the right place. This is the Career Code Journey. I'm Cindy Albuquerque, and here I talk about everything you need to know to become a developer without rushing, guessing, or doing it alone. Today's episode is a practical guide on the minimum you need to learn about Java to start your career. Who am I? I have been working as a software engineer for 18 years. I've worked in many companies, from startups to big companies like Amazon, but it wasn't always like that. I started my career as a meteorologist. I graduated in atmospheric sciences at Universidade de São Paulo in Brazil. But then I reached the ceiling of my career. I wasn't happy, and so I decided to move into tech. So I went back to the university and I graduated in systems analysis and development at Uninove, also in Brazil. What is this topic about? I'm going to talk about which skills are most valued by the tech market and how you can get an initial job through consistent study. I'm also going to talk about how you're going to construct your portfolio and what you have to prioritize in order to have the best results. What is this topic not about? First of all, it's not a complete Java course to train specialists. I'm going to talk about only what you have to do, only the topics. I'm not going to dive deep into that. Second, I'm not going to talk about the complex topics or the less common topics used in daily life as a developer. Also, this is not about learning programming in an academic or purely theoretical way. We're going to be hands-on in this video. Also, this is not about creating extremely complex projects, even before getting the first job. We're going to focus on which projects you actually need in your portfolio to get your first tech job. And also, this is not a promise to get rich quickly. You have to put a lot of effort into it. So, why is this topic an opportunity for you? First of all, the technology market is in need of programmers, especially for junior roles and support for existing systems. You might be thinking, but with the advent of AI, junior developers are not needed anymore. You are right to think about that, because the junior roles are actually different from what they used to be 2-3 years ago. It doesn't mean that they are not needed, it means that they're different. And second, many job openings require basic and practical knowledge of Java, without needing mastery of advanced topics. Well done basics. You don't have to have a deep knowledge of Java. You have to have the basics, but well done. Also, this is an opportunity because within only 5 months, if you have a focused study plan, it is possible to build a portfolio, gain confidence for interviews, and acquire applicable knowledge for real tasks. While many people waste time learning things they do not use, those who follow a lean plan enter the market faster. This reflects a practical approach to entering the tech job market, focusing on essentials and real-world skills rather than exhaustive or advanced theoretical knowledge, especially for junior programmers. You might be thinking, it's not possible to learn Java in 5 months. Let me tell you something. The goal here is not to become a specialist, but rather you are going to become a professional qualified for the job market. Second, you are going to focus on what is essential to get a job. You are going to concentrate on the most important things and the most in-demand concepts requested by companies. You are not going to learn everything, not everything about the language. You are going to prioritize, know what is exactly needed for you now, so you can practice and build your portfolio that solves real problems, which is actually what companies are truly looking for. You might also be thinking, the companies don't hire those who study for a short time. That's true. The companies hire those who solve problems, irregardless of how much time they have studied. If you show that you master the fundamentals, if you show that you know how to build a REST API with Spring Boot, and you have a practical project on your GitHub, you prove that you have the necessary knowledge and capability. The duration of your study is less important than the quality of your work and your ability to solve challenges. In summary, the companies are looking for how much value you can add to them. What are the biggest mistakes made by those who try to learn Java? First, they try to learn dozens of different frameworks, dozens of libraries, without diving deep into any of them. You want to become a generalist. You want to know about everything. It is impossible. Not even the most experts Java gurus know everything about the language. You have to narrow down what you need to know. And this is what I'm going to talk about. Second mistake is focusing only on theory. They read books, they watch classes, but they don't put their hands on. They don't code real projects. They don't solve problems. In interviews, they're going to put you problems, so you have to solve them. You have to practice problem solving. Third mistake is not building a solid portfolio. Why is a portfolio so important? It shows that you know how to use the framework, you know how to code, you know how to use data structures, you know what you are doing. It is not only theoretical, but it's a concrete example of your capability. Fourth mistake is wanting to learn everything before applying. In programming, you have to code. You have to go to your IDE and you have to write a small program with that new concept that you have just learned. You have to get hands-on expertise. Fifth mistake is not interacting with recruiters, not posting on LinkedIn. That's what I talk about. Be seen to be remembered. You have to build your network to be able to connect to the people that are closest to the job openings. Most of the job openings are not public because the hiring manager sends the job openings to their contacts. They don't even have to put in LinkedIn or in any job advertising websites. They use their own network. So you have to be seen to be remembered. And what is the right way to do it? First of all, you have to focus on a clear and progressive roadmap. And I'm going to give you this roadmap in this video. Second, at each new stage, you have to apply the knowledge in practical projects. You have to demonstrate that you not only have the theoretical value, but that you can also apply it in a concrete project. Third, this will result in a solid and proven portfolio. You have to build your networking. You have to go to LinkedIn. You have to interact with recruiters. You have to interact with other developers because most tech companies give bonus to their employers if they make an indication for a tech job opening and this person is hired. So not only interact with the recruiters, but also interact with the people in the companies that you want to work. Now I'm going to give you a detailed roadmap, the shortcut to the market, what you have to learn about Java in 5 months. First month, you have to focus on the fundamentals and the solid foundation. The objective here is to understand programming logic, understand Java syntax and basic concepts to be able to create small programs. In the first week, you are going to prepare the environment and you'll get started. First thing, you have to install a Java JDK and an IDE. What is a Java JDK? Java JDK is what you install into your computer that will enable you to code in Java and to run your code in Java. And what is an IDE? An IDE is where you are going to program, where you are going to code. Examples are IntelliJ and Eclipse. Why are they so important? Because they help you to code faster, then prevent typos, they help you with autocomplete, they help you search where your files are, they help you search which functions you are going to use, they help you search which objects or methods you are going to use. They help you run your code, they help you run your tests. So it is essential for you to get an IDE, because without it, your productivity slows down without having to. And current IDEs have already an AI mode integrated into them. And so you can leverage AI with your code. Second thing you need to do is to configure Git and GitHub. So what is Git and GitHub? Let's start with Git. Git is a version control. What is a version control? Let's begin with an example. Let's say you create a button, and in this button is written OK. Let's suppose the client doesn't want an OK written. They want click here. And so you write there, click here. You lose the OK. If it were in a Word file, for example, you would delete the OK and put click here. But what is going on? You are actually losing the OK. Let's say the client wants the OK again. So you'll have to delete the click here message, and then you are going to write OK. With a version control, you don't lose the OK. You can revert the previous version, or let's say it was 4 or 6 versions before. You can retrieve it without losing what you had. So why is this important? Because it's not only a click here button or an OK button. Things in programming are much more complex. And sometimes you need to revert something that you did, but you don't remember the 20 lines of code that you had removed. So you can go back in your version history and retrieve the previous version with the 20 lines of code that you had deleted, for example. Git is what you run in your machine, in your desktop, in your notebook. And GitHub is the cloud version where you push all your changes there. So you have to configure it in your machine to work with your IDE so you don't lose anything and you keep pushing. Most companies that I've worked with work with GitHub. After that, you are going to do your first program, what we call Hello World. What is a Hello World? In programming, is basically printing on your screen. It is not printing as a printer, okay? It is writing on your screen the phrase, the sentence, hello world. This is the most basic programming you can do in a language. So if you are learning a new framework, if you are learning a new language, the first thing you do is a hello world. So if you have everything working properly, configured properly, then if you write your simple program to print hello world, it will print if everything is set up correctly. Great, now you have your hello world. Next step is you need to learn about data types, variables, and operators. Why? Because they are the basic building blocks of programming. In a program, you receive data and you work with this data, and eventually you can return this data or new data. So you have to learn about integer. What is an integer? An integer is a variable that holds an integer number. It can hold, for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, 99, but it can't hold a name, for example, Cindy. No, it can't hold a name. It can't hold a decimal number, for example, 0.5, 1.7. It can't. For decimal numbers, we use float or double. So you have to understand about those. You have to understand about booleans. What is a boolean? It's something that holds a true or false value. You have to understand all these and how to use those. You have to understand what are operators. In the operators, you can have math operators, for example. You can have plus, subtraction, multiply, division, But there are other operators. You have to learn about these operators so you can use them in your programs. Okay, this completes week 1. Let's move to week 2, which is flow control. First thing you have to learn is about conditional structures. If, else, switch. What is an if? Basically, it's a condition that if it's met, it will execute a block of program. I'm not going into details here, but you have to learn how an if block works. And an else block. An else block is if it doesn't enter into the if block, the program will execute the else block. Second thing you have to learn on week 2 is the repetition loops. There's the for loop, the while loop, do while loop. So each loop has a particularity and each loop is used in a particular way. So you have to learn about that. Third, you have to do practical exercise about the conditional structures and the repetition loops. Week 3. On week 3, you are going to focus on arrays and strings. What are arrays? What is a one-dimensional array, a multidimensional array? You have to learn about the string manipulation. What is a string? For example, I told you before about the integer not being able to hold a name. A string holds a name. Actually, a string holds a text. And how you can manipulate those texts? Maybe cut some part of this text, or let's say you have a text saying Cindy de Albuquerque and you want to cut the first name. So how do you cut the first name? Do you cut the last name? Or how do you trim the spaces? There are so many things about arrays and strings that give you an immense possibility of problems you can solve with them. On week 4, you are going to focus about methods. What are methods? Basically, they are blocks of code inside an object. What is an object? So there are many things that you have to learn. A method is a block of code that can be executed and that can be reused. For example, let's say you want to calculate the salary of all your employees. You can calculate the salary for the first one, then for the second one, for the third one. Let's say you have 1,000 employees. Are you going to repeat Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, the same code for the 1,000 employees? What happens if the company hires one more employee? You'll have to keep adding? No. We can actually reuse that block of code and extract it into a method where your program can call this method with the data of that particular employee. But you have to learn how to create a method. You have to learn how to call a method. You have to learn about the scope of variables. If the main program calls the method and sends the string of the name of the employee, and let's say this method changes this string to cut it only to get the first name, will my main program be affected? So this is about the scope of the variables. And remember, you have to do practical exercises. For everything that you learn, you have to put those concepts into practice. That concludes month 1. Month 2, you are going to focus about object-oriented programming and your projects. The objective here is to master the pillars of Object Orientation Programming, or OOP, and apply them to small projects. So, week number 5, you are going to learn about classes and objects. You have to learn about how to create a class. What is a class? You have to learn about attributes, about methods, about constructors, how you can create an object using a class. I know this is too abstract now, but let me give you just an example. Let's say you have a recipe of a cake. The class is the recipe. The object is the cake. with the recipe, you can bake many cakes. You have only one recipe, but you can bake, for example, 1,000 cakes. But you only need one recipe. You can have other recipes, of course. Let's say you have a chocolate cake recipe, you have a strawberry cake recipe, a banana cake recipe, and so on. But with, let's say, 3 classes, you can build thousands of cakes. Let's say 1,000 chocolate cakes, 2,000 strawberry cakes, and 3,000 banana cakes. So you'll have to learn about how to define those recipes, those classes, how to use them to create an object, in this case a cake. What are the attributes? What are the methods? What are constructors? On week 6, you are going to focus about learning the pillars of OOP. Encapsulation, heritage, polymorphism. I know it is a lot. I won't go into the details of those. On week 7, you're going to focus about collections, mainly array list and hash map. In Java, there are many others. There's linked list, there's set, there's hash set. You don't have to worry about those. Learn about array list and hash map. These are the ones that a junior developer have to know. Later you can focus on the other stuff, but for now, focus only on array list and hash map. On week 8, you're going to learn about file manipulation, how to read and write using Java I/O, how to write in a file, how to read from a file, how to open a file. That concludes month 2. On month 3, the focus is tools and consolidated project. The object here is to learn market tools and consolidate knowledge with pure Java projects. So, week 9, you are going to learn about Git and GitHub, the basic commands, and how to work with remote repositories. I know I told you to configure in week 1. From now on, you won't code without pushing to Git. You have to have everything in your repository. You need to learn about all the basic commands and also about the remote repositories. On week 10, you'll focus about Maven and best practices. What is Maven? Maven is a dependency management. Java has many libraries. There are libraries to solve almost any problem you can think about. You don't have to learn about all of them. Not even the Java gurus know everything about them. What Maven does? Maven declares the dependencies that your project needs. All the public Java libraries are on the internet, but you won't use all of them. Let's say, for example, that in your program you need to send an email. You are not going to write everything again about how to send an email. There's already a library for that. So what you do, in Maven, you will declare that your project needs the library for sending an email. Another thing that you are going to focus on week 10 is about tests with JUnit. You have to learn about the basics about how to unit test your code. So you'll have to learn about what is a unit test, what is JUnit, how to write a test with JUnit, how to run a test with JUnit. On week 11, you create your pure Java project. You can either do a task or inventory management system. On week 12, you are going to review and document your project. You're going to improve your code, and you are going to create a README for GitHub. On month 4, you are going to learn about Spring Boot and web applications. The objective here is to create REST APIs with Spring Boot to increase your employability. Spring Boot is one of the technologies most demanded for junior roles in tech companies. On week 13, you are going to focus on the introduction to Spring Boot. What is Spring Initializer? What is the project structure? What is a basic endpoint? On week 14, you are going to learn about controllers and REST APIs. What is a controller? What is a REST API? How to use the annotation at REST controller. How to use the methods get, post, put, and delete. On week 15, you are going to learn about database with Spring Data JPA. You have to learn about H2 MySQL configuration. You have to learn about entities, repositories, CRUD. On week 16, you are going to program your final project with Spring Boot. You will write a complete REST API with database. You are going to document your API with Swagger. You are going to publish it on GitHub. On month 5, you'll apply for jobs and prepare for interviews. The objective here is to transform the acquired knowledge into real job opportunities. So week 17, prepare professional profile. You'll update your LinkedIn and GitHub. You'll create an online portfolio with projects. Week 18 is the application strategy. You are going to list all of your target companies. And also you are going to apply for at least 5 job openings per week. You'll not stop until you get a job. Week 19, you'll do the interview preparation. You will review the fundamentals of Java, of object orientation programming, of Spring Boot, and you will practice technical and behavioral questions. On week 20, you will do your active networking. You will participate in online communities and events, and you'll post learnings on LinkedIn. I'm going to leave the link for this detailed roadmap in the comments, so you can access it and follow it without having to worry about what your next step is. Now tell me, did you like this lesson? Did I help you in any way? Would you like me to go deeper into anything that I mentioned today? Tell me here in the comments. This could be the theme of my next video. Please like the video and share with people you think might benefit from these strategies. And subscribe to the channel.